What? 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 What?
Hey, I'm actually here. We'll be live in about 2 minutes with Dustin. You might catch Dustin dancing in a minute.
What? 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 What?
Be live in about a minute. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Social Media Lab. I am Scott Harris, a content scientist here at the Social Media Lab, powered by Agorapulse. Good to see all of you starting to hop in. We're playing around with some different timer ideas this week. I did a live show Monday with Restream. And by the way, if you want to get Restream, go to restreamlive.com. You can sign up for free. You do get $10 off if you upgrade your plan with that link. Wink, wink. Feel free to go over to that. But we talked about timers on that show, and I'm finding in my live videos that my peak viewership is about the 10 to 11 minute mark. And so it justifies to me so far on those 30 live streams on across about 60 channels total, really, that I should wait to get to the beef of the content a little bit further in. That's why I think these timers are fun. So if you're watching right now, I see a few of you already watching. Say hi. We'll leave this little chat. It's on the hopefully I get it right. Oh, I got it wrong. No, they get it right. Where is it at? It's over here. I don't know. It's over there. Over there, kind of. I always get that wrong. The little chat will come up. If you say hi, it'll show on the screen. We'll leave it on for a little bit. We won't leave it on the entire show because it distracts me really, really quickly. And here's a fun little fact. Here on Restream, before we even get going in this, like I'm actually allowed to comment. And I'm trying to pick one inside Restream chat. Like this is a comment. Like you'll see it come up from Agorapulse's YouTube channel. I actually can switch inside of Restream's live studio and change where my comments coming from instead of it coming from, like, you'll see the bottom ones where it says Happy Wednesday. That's when I go send it to all. It goes to all, so it shows up a little weird on the little screen there. But I could just comment on a particular page, which is super cool. And today, if I did it right, and actually I don't know if I did now that I'm seeing it. I'm supposed to be live on my LinkedIn account today, my personal one. I finally, after years, it seems like, trying to get approved, finally got approved because of my friends at Restream pulled some strings and got me approved. So yeah, Ed, good to see you. Ed said, hey, someone said to post more than 5 words. Good job, Ed. High five to you for posting more than 5 words. So today on our subject today, we're going to talk about planning content with science. How do you plan content? How do you know what works, what doesn't work? And I'm curious if you hop on and you happen to see this question while it's there. Where do you find your content ideas from? Where do you get your content from? Are you just like searching Google? Are you stealing it from your competitors? What are you doing? I would love to know in the comments, Ed, or whoever else is watching right now, that, where do you get your content from? I think that'd be kind of fun to find out. And because I'm gonna bring on Dustin here, and we're gonna talk about different ways to plan your content with science. So let me bring my friend Dustin. He was dancing like crazy. I actually may leave the timer on this video on Agorapulse's page. Normally I strip the timer out when I'm done with a live. I'll strip out the timer because it's, the replay viewers don't want to watch that typically. But this one was kind of fun this time, so I actually may leave that one on there. So there is my friend Dustin Stout. If you don't know who Dustin is, he's usually the tallest guy in the room, wherever he is at. And evidently, Dustin, you're quite the dancer.
Fun fact. A lot of people don't know that. I spent a good deal of my life in the world of dance.
Ooh.
I was actually voted in my high school best dancer. Also voted most likely to become the next Backstreet Boy. So still waiting for that last one. To come up as an opportunity.
So, Dustin, if you've watched my shows, I don't typically like to read bios a whole lot because it just seems funny. So why don't you, while this music's playing for the 45 seconds behind you, give us your 60-second elevator pitch or whatever, who in the world is Dustin Stout?
So I'm a blogger turned social media marketing consultant. I build websites and do content marketing for clients, big and small. I've worked with great companies such as BuzzSumo, Inc., and other smaller but still impactful and important businesses like yours to help them increase their reach online through content marketing, social media, SEO, blogging, and all that fun stuff. And I also own a couple of software businesses.
A couple, yeah, that's understatement, right? I feel like Dustin. Every time I see, Dustin's got a new program, I got to go play with.
I'm paring it down though. I'm taming it down a little bit.
Yeah,
focusing in this next season on just one.
That'll be interesting to see. What you come up with. And Dustin's multitasking like everyone these days who's working from home, and he's got the 3 kids wrangled, and I probably turned on a movie and gave him some popcorn. I don't know.
Yeah, they're actually tied up and gagged in in their.
I didn't want to tell them that. Yeah, they're like in a little box on a what is it on a Despicable Me? They're hiding in this little box of shame.
I've got crayons and markers set up out there. There's laptops, Netflix. We've got a plethora of distractions for them, and hopefully they stick it out for the whole hour.
Give them a tablet and Disney Plus, and my kids are good to go for a couple of days. As long as they got a microwave for some popcorn, I think they're fine from there. So Dustin, what I want to do is I want to do kind of a backwards what we normally do on this show is we like to do a little thing called 5 questions. And so I'm gonna do it first this time around. And basically 5 questions are these from these little cards called pod decks. Pod decks also has an app. So if you go to poddexlab.com, you can check everything out they do. But they actually have these physical decks that help you as a podcaster come up with questions or even ideas for your shows or whatever. Tons of
amazing
stuff. Travis and his company are doing some fun stuff. I love their group. If you're into podcasting, find them. And I've learned a lot just from their group on Facebook on podcasting. But I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and I'm going to let you choose, Dustin. You can choose questions from the Would You Rather box, the What the Heck, or just random interview questions that are a little bit more open-ended.
Ooh, I like things that are a little scary. So let's go with what the heck.
What the heck? All right, I'm going to turn on some trivia music. And we're
Ooh.
gonna play here. We're gonna see what comes to. So this is 5 questions with my friend Dustin Stout. Before we get into our content, we're gonna ask him some random questions here. All right, Dustin. And I didn't look at these first. Do you have a signature move or quirk that people notice or comment on?
I have a signature shirt. Does that count?
Hey, that
Every
works.
time I'm seen in public, it'll be with this red V-neck T-shirt from Next Level. I have an entire closet filled with them. So every morning when I wake up, I just reach in and grab one, and I don't have to spend a single second thinking about what am I gonna wear today, and is it gonna match?
Like
Red V-necks all day, every day.
Like Fred Flintstone. You know,
Exactly.
all the things.
Or
All right.
Mickey Mouse,
Mickey-
or Steve Jobs,
Yeah, or Mark Zuckerberg.
or Mark Zuckerberg.
And I wear the same thing on every live show. I rehang it up after every live show.
Or like Scott Ayers.
Yeah, there you go. All right, question 2, 5 questions with Dustin Stout. What's the longest you've ever waited in line for something, and what was it?
Oh gosh, probably rides at Disneyland.
Oh. What's your favorite ride there?
Oh man, it's so hard. We haven't been there in like gosh 2 or 3 years, but I always loved Star Tours. I haven't seen the new Star Wars section of the park yet, but that was always my favorite.
Interesting. All right, question 3, 5 questions with Dustin Stout. If you could have anything named after you, what would you want it to be?
Oh man, that's easy. A city.
A city. Stout City.
Stoutopolis.
Would it be Stout City or Dustin
Stout City or yeah.
All right, here's a hard one for you,
something
Dustin.
like that.
This is number 4 of 5 questions with Dustin Stout. How fast can you say the alphabet? Go.
A B C D F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X.
I
Notice
think
I
you
end with a Z.
I think you got most
Catch
of
that?
them. Yeah, I think you got most of them. All right, last question. I'm looking through these now because I'm wanting to end on, and I can't end on that one. Ooh, that one's a little sketchy there. Here we go.
Those are my favorite, the sketchy ones.
We're gonna keep it G, or at least PG.
Oh, okay,
All right,
there you
5 questions with Dustin Stout. If you were a villain or a criminal mastermind, what would be your calling card?
Oh, calling card. Probably just a red card.
There
Just
you go.
all red on both sides. No
Nothing.
text, nothing. Just a red card.
Just a red. That's a good one. That was a good. We give you get an extra ding 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 for that one. So that was 5 questions with Dustin Stout. Just to have some little fun as we got started here on this week's Social Media Lab. So what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to talk about planning content with science. Like, what does that look like? What are the details? Dustin has spent a lot of time, and I know even more about some of the time you spent recently, just trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work and how it performs. So we're hoping to dive in through some of this. So if you have some questions while we're watching, feel free to ask them, and we'll get to your questions in between our questions. And kind of go from there. I want to see if anybody said, Ed says he's done all of the Disney stuff, the Star Wars stuff at Disney. So kudos to you, Ed. So, all right, first question right out of the gate. This is an easy one, right? Gave you an easy one right out of the gate. Like, is organic social media dead in your opinion? What do you think? And maybe for each site, maybe think of what you've seen or tell us what you've seen.
100% no.
Okay.
Anybody who says organic social is dead either is selling paid ads, they have a service or a product that is paid ad spend, or they just haven't been able to hit the sweet spot with their audience. They haven't built authentic relationships that propel that organic reach. And I'm a big fan of staying organic. And full disclosure, I'm a big fan of organic because I suck at paid ads. So I really do. I'm not good. I hire people who are really good at them to do them for me. But for me, it's always about that organic. if you can really tap into the wants, the needs, and the things that light your audience up, organic is easy. But it really does take time to spend time with that audience, to get to know them, to build authentic relationships, to the point where you know exactly what they're dealing with every day. You know exactly what makes them laugh. You know exactly what gets them fired up. And if you were to stop posting organically, they would cry out loud for you to start back up again. Like, your organic content needs to be so good that people would literally miss it if it were gone. So organic social is definitely not dead. And
yeah. I like that thought. I like I want to point out two things that Dustin just said. A lot of people who tell you organic is dead are probably just trying to sell you something. And they do a lot of paid ads. Organic is harder now for sure. I don't think anybody can argue about that. But it's definitely not dead. I mean, I see people, that's all they do, and they do very, very well with organic. And then that idea that if your content should be so good that people miss you when you don't post. I can think of a few people right out the gate. I'm like, man, you haven't posted in a week. Yeah, I've been off, or I forgot to schedule it, or something like that. I think that's the kind of stuff that you want to put out there organically. And it's not, it's hard. You and I know for 10 years or so being in social media, it used to be so easy. You post a cat meme and get a lot of likes and woohoo, and you were like, a genius. Right. But now it's like crickets. So, I mean, why do you think it's become harder? Like, what's your opinion on that? Is it just because of crowded spaces?
Absolutely. It's become harder because of all the noise, but it's also become harder because people's feeds are no longer in their control. We have to acquiesce to the power of the algorithm. Yeah. Facebook decides what gets shown to who. Twitter decides what gets shown to who. Although Twitter's a little bit better, it lets people decide if they want to see, the new stuff first, algorithm free feed. But LinkedIn, Instagram, they're all the reach is determined by the algorithm. So it's hard because you can't just create content that your audience loves. You also have to play in that world of how is this going to play in the algorithm. So it's a lot more science than it used to be. It's before it was a lot of just gut feeling and knowing your audience and that intuition and that creativity. But now it's both the intuition, the creativity, and the science side too.
What's your favorite social site, personally speaking?
100% Twitter right now.
I figured that's what you would say because I see you're active like crazy on Twitter.
A lot
of us kind of were the other way. I think a lot of us were Facebook, Instagram, but I'm seeing more and more in the space go back to Twitter.
Twitter was always it always fluctuated between my number one and number two favorite network. When it was number two, it was because Google Plus was still around and it was in its heyday. But then when Google Plus kind of died.
It got killed. It didn't die.
It started to die, and then they took it in the back and shot it.
Yeah.
It was on its last leg. Yeah. But then Twitter came back to number one, and then Instagram has slowly jumped up to the number two spot. Facebook hasn't been anywhere near something I would call a favorite platform in about 5 years or so.
I'm still, like, usage wise, I probably still use Facebook more than anything. But really it's not the feed anymore. It's groups. Yeah. I mean, I'm active in groups more than anything.
Absolutely.
I don't post much my personal profile. Business, of course, that we do, but those groups have been the hot thing there.
Yeah, me too. And in fact, I have earlier this year, I thought I'm really not going to go on Facebook at all anymore. But recently with this new campaign that I'm getting ready to start for one of my software companies, I know that my target audience is on Facebook and they're in Facebook groups. So I'm actively looking for new Facebook groups to join, specifically Facebook groups for bloggers. So if anybody knows any great blogging Facebook groups, please hit me up.
I know of a couple of them. I'll have to add you to a few of them that I'm in. Some good content marketing ones out there.
Yeah.
Eddie Garrison's got a really good one. Rob Balasabas has got a really good one. They're not necessarily blogging, but they are bloggers, but it's a little bit both. So yeah, that'd be kind of cool. So, and I loved the comment that Richard made here a minute ago, that he's a huge fan of organic on his personal, and he tests what's working there and uses those on his business page. And that's
very smart.
I see Dustin doing this. And I even asked you recently, because I kept seeing Dustin posting stuff to his Instagram stories. I'm like, dude, what are you using for these? Like, oh, well, wait, I got a new thing that I'm testing out. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But yeah, I think that's a good testing ground. Like, what do the average people who follow you or your friends react to? And then and we'll get into where we find content stuff here in a minute. But that's I do like that idea there. And actually, let's just go right to that one, and we'll skip the second one and come back to it, because I think it's a good lead into that. Like, how do you know what is working and not working? Like, what's your process from a business aspect of figuring out, okay, that piece of content failed, that one succeeded? Like, do you have a process, and how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always been sort of a meticulous kind of planner, a little bit of a perfectionist, and I have this weird sort of, like, I'm an artist who wants to be free and without boundaries and stuff, but I'm also an analyst on this side, and I'm like, I need structure and I need consistency and I need, like, planning. So for me to fully understand what works, you have to first have a plan of what you're going to do, so that you can go back, look at the results and compare it to the plan and say, here's what worked, here's what didn't. And so, for me, the very oftentimes meticulous and almost obsessive planning is the only way that I can really see that you can analyze properly and adjust the next time you plan, so that you can use more of what worked and more of what didn't. So, a crucial part of that analysis process for me is Agorapulse. Obviously, I'm a big user. The analytics are crucial to me, being able to see this post succeeded, this post did not, this category of items was really popular, this category of items didn't do as well as I thought. So, just that being able to sit down, plan, watch what happens and analyze it, and then adjust the plan moving forward to sort of recalibrate all the time. Because here's the fun thing about social media, guys, it's always changing. And what worked 6 months ago may not actually work tomorrow. So you constantly have to be reevaluating your plan, but you can't reevaluate if you don't have a plan. You can, really sit down and go, this is what I did. Here's what worked.
Yeah. And just to kind of, piggyback a little bit or expand on what Dustin was saying there. We'll talk about tools and stuff here in a minute, but and this is one of them. Agorapulse. Dustin uses Agorapulse. He has for a while. And what Dustin does, because you and I have talked about this before, I think, is you use our labeling feature, or tagging feature, you might call it, different verbiage there, and it will tag all the content, label it a certain type. So it's a quote. It's I'm sure you've got so many different categories. It's insane. But then you can go and look.
Not really.
No, really. See, I figured you had so many. It was really, like ridiculous. But
yeah, no, I've pared it down, and it's
okay.
a whole content plan, and we can totally. I'm happy to share that whole system that I've put in place. But yeah, it's a handful of categories now.
But those labels help you, because then you can go and see what worked, what didn't work, without just looking, okay, what type of post was that? And I think that plays it. Looking at the data, of course, obviously we like data here. And I think, Dustin, you're more of a data geek even than I am when it comes to what you look at and how you plan it. Now, how long, like for you, when you're seeing what's working well, so you're looking at these trends, how many pieces of content do you like to kind of look at and evaluate before you say, yes, I'm going with that? And how long span of time? Like, what's your thought process there?
I like to work in 1 month cycles.
Okay.
I sit down at the at the end of a month, and I just plan everything out through this this buckets system that I've created. But I only plan it out after analyzing what worked in the previous month. So I kind of go month to month in my planning and analysis process, and I think that's a long enough time to let things marinate a little bit and see what the results are, but it's also a short enough time to where you can adjust on the fly. Like, if you were planning 6 months ahead, then I think it's really hard to really stay on trend or stay on the edge of what's trending.
Yeah.
And so for me, the month thing works. Some people like to do 2 weeks and be a little bit more agile like that. For me, just my cadence seems to really click with that, month to month strategy.
I do like what you pointed out there, saying if you plan out 6 months, which is great if you can kind of figure out some overall strategy perhaps, but
Yeah,
trends change so quickly. It might be, hey, video was great, and now suddenly it's audio only is like the hot thing. And let's say, and we know it will happen, Facebook will do its own little audio clubhouse, thing. And then what do you do as a bit? Now you've got to shift a little bit. So if you're stuck to it, I've planned this 6 months ago, dang it, I'm leaving it. You may need to be a little bit more flexible there. And Deb asked a really great question here. Deb's our community manager, but she's goading you a little bit with this good question. How do you plan your content out before you put it in to Agorapulse? That's and maybe you kind of played into it a little bit, but that's do you write it out? Do you spreadsheet it? Like, what's your process?
So I actually wrote an entire blog post about this process. But essentially,
we'll probably find the link to that and put it in the comments.
I have it open actually in another tab.
There you go.
Send you the link if you need. But so essentially, I have a planning app that I use called Notion. Notion, okay. If you don't know what it is, notion.so is the site to go check it out. You can use it for free, but it's a very versatile tool. Notebooks, and you can have spreadsheets, and you can convert those spreadsheets into different views like cards, calendars, all sorts of different things. It's super versatile, and we've figured out how to use it at my company to start with a sort of like a spreadsheet, and we have a list of our categories of content. We actually refer to them as buckets. So what I firmly believe is that you should understand your audience, and you should understand the different categories of content, different categories of content that resonates most with them. So for us, I'll just give it to you here. Thought I had it pulled up. Where'd it go? Boom. So the categories or buckets of content that we've realized that works best for our audience are questions, things that they can easily answer and engage with our content, that makes them think, but it's not too difficult to where they have to think too hard. Prompts, things like tag a friend who makes you smile, things that give them an easy way to engage. Quotes, just things that are inspirational or maybe thought-provoking, or something that's maybe thought leadership style mentality stuff. And then we try to play into holidays whenever it's relevant to our audience. And then we, every now and then we'll do like a Tip Tuesday, like day-oriented post, or a Motivation Monday, or a Thank God It's Friday. Those are our really five core categories of content, or buckets as we call them. And so what I do in Notion is I've got this set up so that I have sort of like a Kanban board, like a Trello style board, and each column is its own bucket. And so my job at the beginning of the month is to fill those buckets with content. And I do one bucket at a time, and it sort of allows me to get into this one mentality, sort of laser focus on a specific type of category. So if I start with questions, I'll just bang out as many cool, interesting, fun questions as I can, and I'll just list them all out until I have no more ideas left. I'll sort of just dump it all out. And then I'll move on to prompts, and I'll crank out as many prompts as I can think of. And what I've noticed for how I work is that ends up saving me a lot of time. Is once I focus on a category, I can just kind of keep going in that category until I run out of ideas, and then move on to the next category. So within Notion, again, I can start with this Kanban board, and you can then flip it to a calendar view. because it's so versatile, you can assign each one of these Kanban items to a day on the calendar. So at that point, I'm looking at a calendar and just a ton of content that I've brainstormed, and I just start dragging it onto the calendar wherever I think it fits best. And because I don't want to give too many of the same thing, like I don't want to give 3 questions 3 days in a row. I want to keep it interesting, mix it up a little bit so people don't get sort of blind or numb to a particular category or bucket of content. So I'll just go and I'll drag it onto the calendar and I'll move things around and just kind of sit back and look at it. It's like, am I giving my audience the variety that I think they deserve? And does all this content, is it as good as I think they deserve? Are they going to like it? If so, once I've moved everything around and got the calendar looking like I want it to, Notion has this amazing little feature where you can export that into a CSV, which I can then take that CSV and bulk import it into Agorapulse. And I then have, entire month of content. And Deb found the link. Look at how quick she is with that.
I know.
But that's how I do it. It starts in Notion, plan it all out, get it out of my head onto the buckets, get the buckets onto the calendar, make sure there's variety, export, import, and at that point it's just a matter of creatives, whether we need images for them or anything else. But I'm thankful that I have a team in place who can help me execute the creatives side once the whole plan is sort of mapped out for them.
Wow. That was everybody's like, oh, all the brain dump and then organize. Yeah, that was a lot. That was good. I think those content strategies, as far as like and I'm going back down. I put them in there as you were talking. This idea of buckets. I've been preaching buckets and categories for a long, long time. That just helps you stay so organized. And know, okay, like you said, I'm going to come up with all the stuff that's in this idea and just get it out there. And then maybe
just dump it out without judging yourself, without judging. I'm a perfectionist, so my tendency is to want to like go in and maybe I'll tweak this. Maybe the only way I'm going to get it done is if I just get everything out in that on that Kanban board, and then I can adjust later.
The CSV to bulk and Agorapulse is fire. Yeah, it's if you know what you're doing, it works so well. I love it. I use a few of them I'm sometimes guilty too of making it easy, but it's quick. I can get content on Twitter. I just use the RSS feed bulk uploader and just done. Links are out. At least I know my links for my own content is out there in the Twitter universe. Deb has another question here. How do you bring the graphics in? Post by post?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a way to easily do both images and text at the same time with Agorapulse. I don't even know the logistics of how that would work, so no judgment there on the team at Agorapulse, because I know they're geniuses on the dev team. So yeah, right now the only way that I can imagine that I figured out how to do it is just post by post. Once we have all of our creatives done, which we're super organized about, like each image has like a number which is associated with that date on the calendar. So like I'm just looking at a list of files and I go find the posts and drag them in, and it's it's a bit of a tedious process, but still much faster now that we have a system in place to execute it.
Yeah, and I think that's key, is having some sort of system, whatever works for you. You stick to that system and you just get used to doing that, and it's just over and over, and it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, we've got a well-oiled machine over here. I mean, we kind of think of content production as a conveyor belt. And we just have different people in charge of different pieces of the process, and it helps things go really smoothly.
That's like the bucket brigade kind of. We went back to buckets.
Exactly.
I didn't even mean to, but there's the pun. just right there. Just it happened.
Love it.
And I didn't even mean for it to happen. So, anything else about figuring out what's working and not working that maybe people should know about that you haven't?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'm big on is just staying on top of trends. And one of the tools or companies that I use all the time, like several times a week, is BuzzSumo. And again, full disclosure, they were a client a few years ago at some point, but their their analysis of things. They just came out with a new study. I think they analyzed 100 million,
Yeah.
100 billion, trillion, I don't know, headlines on different networks to see what type of headlines are working across all platforms. And those data, I actually worked with them on one of their Facebook studies back in 2019, I think. And those studies are so extensive and they have so much data that like they're invaluable. And you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. They're casting a wide net for this data, so it might be slightly different than what your audience, what their outlook is on things. So always, I kind of always go back to know your audience, know what they're into, know what they struggle with on a day-to-day basis, and then take that data and apply it as needed. So BuzzSumo is great with that, releasing data studies, and their tool, their software allows you to kind of see what's trending now and what's popular now. And big fan of BuzzSumo. It really helps me get things done and stay on the bleeding edge.
The bleeding edge. I like that. Yeah. I mean, I think it's good to see those trends, but also knowing that your audience might be a tad different, but they're looking at such a huge amount that surely the average is close enough to kind of take that guesswork out for you. So you're kind of you're 2 steps ahead of the game instead of trying to do it on your own. If you don't have your own data to look at. They're gonna, but yeah, dude, I like the only thing that I always want to make sure with that sort of data, and that headline one was really good. I read that article. It was really good. It's sometimes some of the articles that they'll put out are, you gotta look at what they're putting into it. Like the one that we get, Agorapulse, of course, I've tested this so many times. It's the one about third-party apps and their impact on reach and that sort of stuff, or they penalize. They dump too big of an amount of data there. They didn't separate enough. They didn't separate scheduling tools from RSS feed readers or people auto posting from Twitter or something like that to Facebook. So take that with a grain of salt when you're looking at some of this headline stuff, though, and the content stuff.
Yeah,
it's trend. It's going to show you what's trending and what's not trending. And
absolutely,
definitely a way to kind of make a move on. I don't know if you can answer this is kind of a loaded question, but like, do you have a rough idea if someone were just trying to figure out where do I start? Like, how often should you post on the different social networks? What do you think?
My gut tells me at this point in the game that Facebook and Instagram are daily posters. A few years back, it might be 3 times a week, but I really do believe that in order to stay relevant and stay in the good graces of the algorithm, you need to be posting at least 1 time a day on Facebook and Instagram. Twitter, if you have any chance at standing out in the noise, the fire hose of Twitter, you need to be posting 5, 6, 10 times a day. To really get the most out of the platform. And that's just how it is. Twitter is a super high volume network. Facebook, Instagram, not as high volume. I mean, if I'm talking strictly about posts, feed posts, but when it comes to stories on Facebook and Instagram, if you really want to utilize that tool, which I think is a very smart move for a lot of brands, if you can figure out how to utilize stories for your brand, you need to be posting 3 to 5, possibly even 7, if you're really crazy, stories a day. But they need to be really, really well thought out and really good. Nobody gets more annoyed than I do when there's like a brand with 10 stories that day, and I'm like, it's just boring.
Like,
But I think one great example utilizing stories is Disney. Disney does a phenomenal job at stories, and they make them fun and engaging. They ask questions about Disney characters. They'll have little mini quizzes, and before you know it, I've gone through 10 of those things, and I haven't even thought twice about it. So if you utilize them well and they're entertaining and they're fun, you can post 7 times a day and really build that brand affinity, build that relationship, and get people used to interacting with you. And like I said, to the point where if you were to stop, your audience would be wondering where you are. Like now, when I don't see something from Disney Plus, I'm like, where's Disney Plus today? Where I want to answer some Pinocchio questions.
Which character do I look like? I remember when you were doing those. and your little thing that's above your head or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Those were fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to go back a little bit just because there's a lot that you just said there. So Facebook and Instagram, you're saying now it's probably you should post once a day because the algorithm, the posts die so quick.
Yeah.
And then Twitter really is, 10 is easy. I see people posting every hour or even more throughout the day, scheduled posts, and then kind of more because the average. What's the shelf life of a tweet? It's like a few minutes.
I think it's a little bit different now. I'd love to see a new study
bad.
on that,
Yeah.
by the way, because I'm seeing a lot of, and I might be different because I kind of switch back and forth between the what's the word I'm looking for? The in the real time, the chronological feed and the algorithmic feed. So I kind of flip back and forth, and in that algorithmic feed, I'm seeing stuff from like 2 days ago, 3 days ago sometimes.
I don't think I've switched. I guess I just give it chronological. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth. So I think the shelf life of a tweet has maybe improved at least slightly over the last few years with their different changes. But if people are in their standard feed, then it's probably like 2 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah, unless you're going back to list. Like I spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time yesterday in a few lists that I was on. I didn't even know it was on them. I was like, oh look, I'm in a list with these people. How cool! And then I found myself finding older tweets, and I was like, oh, that's a good one to go engage with. I want to go engage with that one. So at least once a day on Facebook, Dustin's saying maybe at least once a day on Instagram, and then 7 to 10 minimum on Facebook. Now the stories is interesting because if you're good at stories, like you said, it gets you coming back. I'm thinking right now because Instagram, I was like against stories because I'm a 45, almost 46-year-old dude. I ain't got time for the FOMO stuff. You ask Deb, who's in the comments, my opinion of Clubhouse because it's all about FOMO, and I'm just not into FOMO. It's just not my thing. I want to view content on my own time. I get it. I have totally routines and I've got 3 kids and I got time for all that. Ain't nobody got time for that. I need that as an audio on my little buttons here.
You need the anybody got time button.
Yeah. But what I find myself doing on Instagram is I'm addicted to Seinfeld. Always have been. My favorite show by far. I have watched that series dozens of times, start to finish. We'll do it again. We just got done with it a couple months ago. Now we're on How I Met Your Mother. And we watch 1 or 2 episodes a night. It's like our last thing we do before we go to sleep. We did MASH first, and then Seinfeld, and then How I Met Your Mother. We're doing King of Queens next, and then back to Seinfeld again. We have those kind of funny little, those shows we love. But anyway, I follow every Seinfeld page you can think of on Instagram. Like there are tons of them. There's so many of them. They're so funny. The memes are hilarious. The COVID-related memes using Seinfeld episodes and stuff, hilarious. But what a lot of them, and the reason I even bring it up is what a lot of them do really, really well is do the yes, no, or pick one or the other things in their story, which is so simple to do. Anybody who's got a phone has Instagram can do it. Doesn't require anything, but they do a lot of matchups like this episode versus this one, which one's better. And, and they do like a lot of them do like a weekly, monthly sort of break. Like, of course, March Madness, they did a whole bunch. And by the way, kudos to my Baylor Bears who just won the national title 2 days ago, sick 'em Bears. But they did, I love it though. And I find myself, they post it in their feed, they'll post, hey, which one's better, answer in the story. So they drive people over to their stories, and then you just tap one of them and you're done. And when they don't do one for a week or two, I'm like, I'll message one of the pages because I've become friends with them. I'm like, where's it at? You're like, sorry, I've been off. Because a lot of people who are doing it in their spare time.
Yeah.
They're not really, and they have hundreds of thousands of followers, but they're like, but I message them and I'll say, hey, I missed it. Or I'll message, oh, I can't believe you put those 2 together or something like that. But they've hooked me, like you were just saying. Hooked me.
There's a CrossFit, I guess, Instagram account.
Yeah.
And it's the name is Make WODs Great Again. And all he does is post just funny CrossFit memes. And he's prolific. But if I don't see one, and in that 5 minutes a day, I'm actually scrolling through the Instagram feed, I'm like hunting it down. I'm going to his profile and saying, what did I miss? Where is it?
And that's that level that you want with your followers, whatever that is that you do. You can copy. That's why I like following so many different type of accounts that sometimes I look at my feed and whatever I'm looking at, going, God, I follow some weird stuff. But it's because I want to see what they're doing. That way I can copy it on my own.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to use this over here.
Yeah.
So go follow some of those accounts on Instagram, especially, and see what they're doing in stories, because you might not like stories personally, but your audience wants people are spending a lot more time on the stories than they are the feed. I mean, for me, I don't know about you, but I get about 4 or 5 thumb scrolls in the feed and I'm done.
Yep.
But stories, I'll get on and I may never unmute, but I'll look, I'll tap, I'll swipe. I'll go, oh, wait a minute, I just missed that. I'll go back. And then I'll see, our friend Chris Stubbs got 20 stories. So I just swipe you, Chris. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Chris. If you're watching, Chris is a friend of the show, a good buddy. But sometimes he posts. He's really good.
Great.
He's really good at posting a lot of stories and using old content for his stories to bring it back up in the conversation. He's doing that on purpose. I know he is. He's smart about it. But that's the stuff that you can do and try out. And so, but it keeps you top of mind. Stories, fleets, whatever it is. Keeps you
That's
top
the
of mind.
key. That is the key. Staying top of mind. Right. You don't want your audience to forget about you, and you don't want a competitor to slide into your audience's DMs, so to speak. You don't want them jumping in that gap created by your lack of consistency.
And it's something about that. It's like a level of dopamine when I see certain people has a fresh story, and it's the stories I've engaged with the most, the people, accounts that show up first, because Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of them are smart enough to know which ones we've engaged with or watched. They'll show you that first. You're like, oh, cool. And then when you open it up in the morning, because in the morning, the first thing I do, of course, is look at Facebook and Instagram. But I'm like, oh, there's no good stories today. I'm kind of bummed because I got to go to LinkedIn. Go look at something.
Ooh, that's rough.
Which is actually better content to read at times, but it's not entertaining in most cases. So. So anyway, any other thoughts about how much you should post, not post? Is there a max, like, hey, don't go there? Or
I mean, you definitely don't want to break the norm of any platform. I think any brand or business that's posting more than 3 times a day on Facebook or Instagram is probably pushing it. Unless, like I said with my Make WODs Great Again CrossFit account example. Oh man, those kids, they're reaching that hour.
Yeah. We'll hurry. We'll have Dad out in a few minutes.
10 more minutes, please. So he's done such a great job at Make WODs Great Again that he can post 10 times a day, and I'll consume and love every single one of them. But unless you're at that level of like entertainment value, and your audience you can see the numbers showing you that you should be doing more of these. You're not seeing a decline in any of them. Absolutely do that. But I think one, 2 a day is fine. And then study and then watch, maybe experiment, maybe 1 week, double that to 4 a day and see how that affects your numbers. It always goes back to make a plan, analyze how that plan went, make adjustments as needed, and plan forward.
That'd be like PAAP.
That
almost like that. That almost
the Papa method.
Pen, apple,
plan,
pen.
Analyze, plan, analyze.
Pen, apple, pen.
Plan, analyze, adjust, plan.
Yeah, you said some P again. Anyway, we're getting
Pap
off
app.
Pap app. All right, so we've talked a little bit about like looking for content, looking for a BuzzSumo, looking at other things. But are there other places that you might look for if you're struggling to find content and the content ideas that you might recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I always go straight to the whatever's popular, whatever's trending on networks. I'm a big fan of Instagram Reels right now, so like I'm getting a lot of ideas from there. Following just the bigger brands and seeing what they're doing and trying to figure out how could that style or that method or that idea apply in my business. That great artists steal. So steal ideas. Go after your competitors and see what are they posting. Is it working? And and try to apply it to your business, your audience, and experiment with what they're doing and see if you can do it better. I'm always a big fan of looking at competitors going, oh, that's really cool what they're doing. I could do it 10 times better.
Yeah, and then you spend like 6 months trying to figure out how to do it, like, oh yeah, I probably could have done something quicker. Like I know for me, and you still you're sovisual.co still running and going with that.
Sovisual.co. Yep.
I say C, I guess it's co, but yeah, co. Now tell us what is that? I put the link in the comments. Like, what do they find if somebody goes over there?
So sovisual.co, I created it for social media managers like me, or even small business owners like me, who they have enough to worry about, and sometimes they just need that extra little prompt or that extra little idea of inspiration, and they don't want to spend or they can't afford to spend a ton of time on design. And so what we've done is we've created these social media, what we call packs, and each pack is 30 days of content. It's a graphic image for every single day, and they come with both the JPEG version if you just want to post and go, or the Photoshop version if you have Photoshop or something that can use Photoshop, and you can literally just swap out the text, swap out the photo, change the colors in 60 seconds, and you're done. And it's meant to be a, either a post and go, or as an inspiration point to help you get those creative juices flowing. Sometimes all you need is just a single idea and go, oh wait, this idea is great, but it sparks a different idea, and you can kind of make it uniquely yours. So right now we've got dozens of packs in there that are ready to go and ready to customize, and they're only a fraction of the cost of what it would cost you personally to hire a graphic designer and do them.
Yeah, and I've used the images that Dustin does on here before. I was testing a lot of fitness accounts. I was in those, and they're great. And the cool thing is no one else was using them in my space. No competitors, so no one's going to see it. And it's really highly qualified and really good content.
Yeah, and I'll give you guys a little secret just for you all listening. The website's not popular compared to Canva. So if you're using Canva templates, odds are there's 15,000 times more people using those templates than there are these templates. These are still not nearly as popular. So if you're worried about, is somebody else going to be using that? Odds are probably not. We're still the internet's best kept content secret.
It's true. And the fact that you can go in and customize it on your own if you want to, or I could download it with text on it, without text on it. I actually used your images for one of our lab experiments when we tested text, no text. Made it super fast for somebody who doesn't, have the time to create content, from scratch. And what I trust about Dustin when it comes to this, and I kind of saw this when you were making this a few times, you had me look at it and test it. And, is I know you're putting science and data behind it because you're seeing what's working, what's not working, just based on how your brain works. And so this is stuff that stands out. So if you need content, this isn't a sales pitch for sovisual.co, but I love it. And it's been a good thing. I highly recommend it to everyone who asks when they need it. So yeah,
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that you see the science behind it, because a lot of people don't.
Get it.
They think, oh, we're just creating simple stuff, but it really is like a lot of thought, not just psychology, not just copywriting, but also design psychology. What's going to actually stand out in the feed and get people to stop that scroll.
Exactly. And I think the cool thing too about it is let's say you're an agency, and Deb works with our agencies, and you need to come up with content for clients. You could grab one of these and slap their logo on it and do a little extra design work with it.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
You're good to go. And
there are so many small businesses out there, and social media managers know. I know. I've been doing this for 10 years now. They just don't have the budget to be able to afford handcrafted content every single day. And so you need, as a marketing manager, you need to find ways to speed up that process and to get things going and to streamline the creation process. And that's really what the whole goal was. Give creators a way to streamline that process so that it's taking them 5 hours a week instead of 30, right? That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. And what other places besides if you're if you're not looking for images, what are some other places maybe you get content ideas from if you're out there looking that you possibly use?
I mean, like I said, I kind of just scroll what's popular
Yeah.
and what's trending.
Twist it your way.
BuzzSumo, again, they'll give you ideas about what's trending right now, what the hottest posts on Facebook or Twitter are. Great resource. It's probably the only one data science wise that I actually use for finding that kind of stuff, other than trolling through Reddit and Twitter and Instagram myself.
And you could set up a listening option inside Agorapulse and track your competitors and see how their content's doing. That's
100%.
another easy way to do that as well. Wink, wink. Or use a hashtag. Follow a certain hashtag. It's in your industry. See what people are using. See which one's getting the most engagement. There's nothing wrong with taking an idea and running with it. Now, don't download their image and Photoshop your own thing on top of your logo on it and call that marketing. That's not what anybody would recommend. You're not recommending that either.
No.
But look at it for ideas is what Dustin's saying. Is
inspiration.
See what's working for them. And okay, how can I put my own spin on it? If somebody else came out there and was dressed in a lab coat with some funny hair on, I'd love it because they've seen it. They're like, okay, well, let's do something like that, and they play off of it. I mean, people do that. Even you wearing a red shirt, you saw someone else doing that, and you went, okay, I'm picking a color and I'm sticking to it, and this is my branding now. For the end of time, unless I get out, I'm stuck wearing an orange wig for a very long time because I know it works. It's my branding, and so it's the same thing. I think we stole the ideas from other people. And we borrowed them. Let's just say we borrowed them. And then we kind of just put our own little spin on it. I think that's really what you
exactly.
Yeah. I do that quite a bit in everybody word. Even writing blogs, you go look and see what keywords are trending. You see, where's the CPC at for that word? Okay, where's the competition? I'm going to write something similar to this one because maybe I can steal some traffic.
Yeah. And for me as a blogger, everybody's written the things that I'm going to write.
Right.
But nobody's written it in the way that I can give it. My experiences, my perspective are completely unique. And just like every one of you listening, you can see what your competitor's doing and you can take your own experience, your own perspective, and put a spin on it that's completely unique and original.
Very cool. Now, you have another website. Are we going to mention your new project? Or is that
sure? It's mainly aimed at bloggers. It's going to be getting a large amount of focus over the next few weeks. We're going to be doing a crowdfunding campaign to build version 2, but socialremix.co is mainly for bloggers to help them create social media messages to promote their blog posts. Now it's funny. I built it intentionally for bloggers, but I do see some social media managers who have jumped on there. And they're using the remix feature to create campaigns for their social media posts and help them remix those ideas. My good friend Peg Fitzpatrick has been a great help in helping me understand how social media managers like her are using it to create campaigns for just everyday content.
Yeah, I actually hopped on. I logged out just so I could show the the main page here, but I logged in right before we got on and just played around with the process. And I was like, oh, it created a bunch of tweets for me. It created a bunch of, and it was the same content, but it was different spin on it. And it remixed it, in a couple of different pieces. So I could use and I did some funny ones. Like I should have kept them, but I think I saved them. But it was like, Dustin's really tall and Dustin wears red shirts and hashtag red shirt or whatever. But it gives you those real quick and puts a spin in the way you as a social media manager, you're still coming up with the ideas per se, but this is like rewriting it. Is that writing it out for you? You copy, you paste, boom.
Yeah. And somebody else, just yesterday, somebody on Twitter direct messaged me and said, this is great for A/B testing. It just gives me a couple different ways to A/B test messaging. And I was like, I didn't even think of that. I was just thinking bloggers.
Right.
But
testing headlines. Yeah. Great way to test headlines and test. Yeah, different things. And Kim says there's nothing new under the sun, so find something you love and make it your own. 100%.
Absolutely, 100%.
Agree with you there. Oh, the website, Tina, I put it in the comments. You should see it. Socialremix.co is that website. Should be in the comments, hopefully.
Completely free to use right now.
But there's what it looks like. Socialmix. socialremix.co in case you didn't see that. So Dustin, appreciate you being on the show, and I know you got to get to those kids before they kill each other.
They're going crazy over there.
I'm glad they didn't while we're on the show, but we'd have a lot of witnesses to everything. But like a little patience of like how do you parent when you're on a live video is a good learning process. So anywhere else other than these two websites you like to send people to, or where can people find you at all over the web?
Oh, that's more than enough. You can find me on the internet. I'm at Dustin W. Stout on all the things. So connect with me wherever you feel most comfortable.
Yeah, we're middle name W brothers.
Yes.
I should start being Scott W. Ayers everywhere.
Yes.
I think actually if I forget it now because I never look at it. I think my Facebook profile is actually my full name. If I look at I haven't looked at the profile URL in so long. It actually has my full middle name on there. So Dustin, appreciate you. Thanks for being a friend of the show and a friend of Agorapulse so much.
Appreciate you, brother.
And that's going to be it for this week's episode of the Social Media Lab. Don't forget that you can go over to agorapulselab.com to check out everything we're doing in the Social Media Lab. And next week's show, I've got a guy from Evolved Finance named Parker, and we're going to talk about the science of making your business profitable. He's probably going to be really geeky and talk a lot about data and finances, and I'm looking forward to him blowing my mind a little bit when it comes to that. So I look forward to that. I'm trying to find, and maybe I don't even have it anymore. I changed out my videos, and I was trying to find the little ending video, and I don't think I have my ending video. So I'm just going to say bye, and we will see all of you next week.